It always starts the same way. I step into familiar, cramped, busy Chinese restaurant in my hometown, Beijing, China. I put on my biggest smile, straighten my posture, and take a deep breath. Ready to face the room full of Chinese relatives I've been afraid of my whole life. After all, living in the US for the past 3 years has transformed me from a quiet, awkward student to a confident, easygoing American that can be the leader in any group project and, of course, recite the entire Kardashian's family tree better than I could know my own address. But just as I thought that I was American enough to face these situations, the moment the words 阿姨好 or hi on in Chinese leave my mouth, I feel myself being pulled back in time to my 10-year-old self. My shoulders slack, my voice goes impossibly quiet, and I spit out words with single syllables. Somehow, the loud, confident me I've grown into vanishes with just 2 words in Mandarin. And that's when I realized that it's not just the language that changes. It's everything. My tone, my posture, my presence. I am constantly shifting between my 2 identities, between American and Chinese culture. And neither feels comfortable. And that is the process of code switching. Code switching, by definition, is what happens when people who speak multiple languages alternate between them, oftentimes within the same phrase or sentence. But in a more colloquial sense, code switching is what happens when an individual reflexively or subtly changes the way they express themselves in response to different environments. However, this natural social skill has become a result of unfair societal expectations and inequality in our society. So, today, first, we'll look at what causes code switching. Next, we will discuss its detrimental impacts on individuals and our society as a whole. And finally, we'll learn how to stop switching and start belonging. Now, while the Kardashians switch faces, voices, or possibly even bone structure every single season of the Kardashians, code switching isn't just for reality TV stars. Everyone does it, and probably better. In fact, writer Maya Lindsay shares how as a child, she would watch her mom transform every morning before work. Not just getting ready, but preparing for a battle. She will comb her thick hair into what she called the least intimidating style, plaster on her warmest smile, and speak perfect English like she invented it. All to make sure she wouldn't be seen as threatening. All to stay safe, to stay hired, to stay respected. And Maya, she learned early. At school, she learned to code switch so teachers wouldn't label her as lazy. Even during a traffic stop, she learned that saying the wrong thing could cost her more than just a ticket. And Maya isn't the only one experiencing this. According to an article by National Library of Medicine, downplaying one's racial identity has been linked to greater likelihood of getting hired, even in companies that explicitly value diversity. This is proven further by the 2023 Crown Research Workplace Study, which found that employers are 2.5 times more likely to perceive a Black woman's hair as unprofessional. These numbers aren't just random. They reflect a deeper cause. The pressure to code switch stems from our society. Dr. Kia Pruitt, a licensed psychologist at Marymount Hospital, explains that the reason people code switch is because of past bias in social systems such as education, employment, or broader cultural environments. Due to this history of discrimination, individuals feel pressured to adjust how they present themselves in order to be accepted, taken seriously, or given equal opportunities. In other words, code switching becomes a survival strategy in response to inequality. So, yes, societies say we value diversity, we check boxes, we enroll all ethnicities in our colleges, we hire from every background in our workforce. But still, we see their traditional clothing, their accents, their ways of thinking, and label them as incompetent. For racial minorities, code switching is no longer a simple choice to adapt to the culture, but a necessity to be respected and to survive. Like so many Asian Americans, I know how to perform based on who's in the room. I know when to bow my head and greet my relatives with respect. I know how to soften my accent, simplify my name, and reshape my stories in front of my American friends. I can become who I need to be so I can become what I want to be. But this burden, this constant switching back and forth, takes a toll. It's not just tiring, it's draining. And I'm not alone in feeling that way. A 2021 study in cultural diversity and ethnic minority psychology found that frequent code switching leads to emotional exhaustion and mental stress, especially in bilingual and multicultural individuals. Why? Because it forces them to constantly watch themselves. Every word, every sentence, every tone is monitored, filtered, and adjusted. It's not just about changing the way you speak. It's about slipping on a mask again and again to sound more acceptable, more professional, more like everyone else. Imagine living under spotlight 24/7, where one slip, one accent, one phrase, one cultural reference can break the illusion you've built to survive. On the other hand, code switching can hinder inclusion in our society. According to George Possery, a career development instructor at Bryant and Straton College, this pressure of assimilation builds a barrier to real diversity, sending the message that only the majority culture is worthy of acceptance. Because when only one way of being is truly valued, because when everyone's forced to change themselves in one set of standards, one set of culture, diversity diminishes. You know, it's pretty funny that the Kardashians can name their kids things like Northwest, a little direction. And when I tell people my Chinese name, they act like I just told them a Wi-Fi password. Meanwhile, so naturally, I just avoided saying it. Not because it's hard for me to say, but because if I actually say it, 言欣然, let my accent slip. I've confirmed it. I'm too foreign. I'm too much. So I rush through an American accent and say, just call me Cathy. Because don't worry, I'm not that Chinese. I'm just like you. But maybe I don't have to cover up my Chinese name. Maybe I should say it loud and clear. Because the truth is, inclusion isn't about fitting in, it's about being seen. And this isn't just about immigrants or people of color. A study by Berkeley of 1,800 American women found that 82% of them code switch at work just to appear more confident. You don't have to speak two languages to be stuck in two versions of yourself. Think about times when you code switch in life, when you hide parts of your personality, when you laughed at jokes you didn't find funny, when you stay silent in a group just because your opinion wasn't the majority. So today, I challenge you to stop unnecessary code switching in your life. Now, I'm not telling you to call your mom bro and start tossing slang at dinner table. Though if you do, please record her reaction and send it to me after the speech. What I'm asking is to listen to that small voice inside you, the one that voice you're too foreign, too different, too much, and start silencing it. Because code switching isn't just a habit. It's a quiet resignation that who we are isn't enough. Like any cost, it adds up. In identity, in confidence, in belonging. So instead of constantly code switching to match the room, what if we changed the room? What if we built spaces where names didn't have to be shortened to be respected, where accents didn't have to be softened to be heard, where we didn't have to hide parts of ourselves just to be safe? Because as author Brene Brown once said, authenticity is a daily practice of letting go of who we think we are supposed to be and embracing who we are. So hold on to your name, hold on to your voice, hold on to what's real, even when the world tells you to hide it, and say your name clearly, loudly, and proudly. Because my name is Yan Xinran, and I will never apologize again for being all of me.
Yeah. That speech really